Welcome back to the Retire As You Desire show. Today's episode is going to be all about how to become rich, how to stay rich, and how do you make the next generation of your family and the generation after that rich as well. I want to show you how to do this with the least amount of work as possible, which probably sounds crazy. Like becoming rich is not easy, but there are really great ways to do this, and it's really not rocket science. I learned this from other wealthy families and helping them and planning and consulting for them over the past 15 years. It's really not rocket science. So I'm really glad that you're here with us for another amazing episode of the Retire As You Desire show. And today's going to be easy information, but get your pen and paper out. We're going to have some wonderful information for you today. To learn how to get rich, first it comes from your mindset. You have to want to be rich, and sometimes it's not always about money, but what it takes to become rich, it just takes a lot of grit, determination. It's not easy all the time, every year of your life. But how you can get rich, how your family can get rich, this is the fun part. This is like super long-term planning. So stick with us for the full episode. You're gonna love this one. So first and foremost, being rich is not all about fancy things. We all like them at some point in our life. We get to a certain amount of money in your bank account or your investments, and it may not be all that it's cracked up to be. Believe me, I've been there, I've done that. And it's not always about having the biggest house on the block or the biggest house in the neighborhood or the state. A lot of those things are backed by ego. If you want to have the biggest house in Illinois or Florida, wherever, it's going to cost you a pretty penny. And there's going to be a lot of sacrifices that have to happen in order to make those things happen. The same is true for, the most expensive car, the nicest watch, or jewelry, or branded clothes, or purses. All of these things are society cues. It's saying, I have a $10,000 purse or a $20,000 watch. It's for you to show your wealth to other people. And the truth is, a lot of people who flash these things, they don't have a lot of money in their bank account, or they don't have a lot of money to actually save and invest, because what they're trying to do is make themselves seem wealthy, but they're spending their money before they invest it. Being rich is really all about having your money working in the most optimal way for you and your goals. Growing your net worth, not your ego, is really the key here. And I've been a victim of this too. So let's just preface this. I've been there before, done that. It's not easy to get over this whole ego game, but I'm working on it, and it does not make you rich. It usually makes you spend money in ways that don't make you rich. It's the opposite. And Tom and I, our producer here at the show, were talking about this before we went live today. It's not easy to figure these things out. It's like, what's important to you? What's not important to you? But I'm going to explain this in a lot more detail later on in the show. Now, let's talk about the definition of being rich. And by definition, it means having a great deal of money or assets. Wealthy, simple. Or it means plentiful or abundant. So by being plentiful and abundant, this is such a traditional way of thinking. Being rich could also mean having your health, your mom and your dad who's still with us. I would give anything to have one more conversation with my mom. I would love that more than anything. And just having your loved ones in your life. If you're grateful or blessed enough to have kids, that's being rich in and of itself. Rich is going to mean something different to everyone, for everyone. But this episode is all about being financially rich. It's like, what does it actually mean to be financially rich so that you can go out and do the things that you want to? And it really comes down to living off of your assets. Ultimately, being rich isn't just about having a large bank account or material possessions. It's a much broader and much more personal concept. It really encompassing financial security, happiness, relationships, your health and experiences. I think experiences is the main thing that I'm looking forward to the rest of my life. And freedom and purpose. All of these things go hand in hand with one another. The meaning of richness varies from person to person, but it's going to shape your individual goals. And I think everyone should have individual goals. Not what your spouse wants, not what your friends want, what you want. We're really conditioned in this world to live up to other people's expectations. You want to have things that make you shine and give you energy. Now, let's talk about your wealth. Wealth is such a fun thing because it allows you to have freedom from doing the things that you don't want to. I think that in and of itself is truly a wealth building goal that everyone should have. If you don't want to do the laundry or the dishes or the things that really drive you crazy and it doesn't fulfill your life, take those things off of your plate. The truth is, other people probably love doing those things. It's great for them. It gives them pleasure and energy. And you're going to give richness amongst other people, and you're going to pass on your richness. And there's a lot to be said for that. And I also want to talk about gratitude right now. Being grateful for what you have is a huge blessing. If you have your pen and paper out right now, it would be great for you to take a moment and just write down 3 or 5 things that you're actually grateful for. What are you happy about in your life right now? Is it your spouse? Is it the things that you have? Is it your actual investment accounts, knowing that at some point in your life, you could live off of your assets? That's what being rich is all about. The attitude of gratitude is a great way to live your life. And being rich is also very subjective to having different meanings and different values on what your perspective is in life. From a cultural context, people in South America, North America, India, right, all over the world, they have different mindsets on what wealthy means. And while financial wealth is often the most obvious indicator, the idea of richness is going to extend way beyond having a lot of money. And here are several ways to think about what it means to actually be rich. Number 1 is financial wealth. This is the most obvious thing on the planet. Rich, you automatically go to money. I think we're all conditioned and trained to think about that. But really at its core, it's about being financially rich, is having the ability to have enough money, to have income to live off of, or enough growth to afford the luxuries or the comfort and the security without worrying about meeting basic needs. Super important. And this whole concept of financial freedom with social media, it's super prevalent these days. And there's a lot of misinformation out there. But being rich can mean having enough financial resources, to live the life that you desire. But if you have food on your table, a roof over your head, you have enough money to pay your bills and clothes on your back, this means that you're wealthier or rich by a huge percentage of more people in the world. So not everyone has these luxuries or running water or electricity. This is huge, and this makes you wealthy and rich more than a lot of people throughout the world. So something to really put into perspective. Now, this is my favorite thing, time wealth. I truly don't think we should be working at 13, 14, 15 hours every single day. You're going to get burnt out. You're going to be stressed. You're not going to enjoy your life. And some argue that true wealth is the freedom to control your own time. That's part of your destiny. A person could have a lot of money or have a big salary, but if their boss is calling them on a Sunday, I need these reports, I need this, I need that. Are you really wealthy? Are you really rich? You probably don't feel rich. You feel stressed, and you almost become stuck on your salary. Change your mindset to think, okay, how can I have a balanced lifestyle? And being rich in time, it gives you the luxury to enjoy life's little moments. You're not always stuck on work. You're not always stuck on, when's my boss gonna bother me? You have to have a separation between your free time and your work time. And this has an effect on your emotional and mental wealth and health and richness as well. The happiness and contentment phase in your life, it's hard to get to. Like, psychological richness is all about feeling happy, fulfilled, and content. But a lot of people confuse this with buying more, consuming more, buying more clothes, more shoes, more things. And again, I've been there. I think we've all been there before. And coming back to your core and really listening to your heart is such a great way to live. That gives you a mental peace. For me personally, I've been getting rid of things and simplifying my life because I'm realizing I don't need all this stuff. I don't want all of this stuff. I really want just a couple things that make me happy and remind me of my goals that are helping me and my family become rich, but on a ton of different levels. It's just not the money thing. I want to be able to pick up my kids from school. I want to drop them off every day, and I'm able to do that now. So that makes me feel rich and wealthy, and that helps give me such a meaningful purpose from a relationship standpoint for our children. And yes, could I work that extra hour in the afternoon? I would rather be with my children, and I think that's a great investment of my time and their time because they know that their father is there, he cares for them, and I just want to be a part of their life. And that helps with love and connection as well. It's a great thing for our household, and I'm sure you could relate to this as well. This is how a lot of people consider themselves rich, especially grandparents. And I'm going to wrap up this part of the episode where having richness in your life is all about family, not about the material wealth. So if you're confused or having a lot of struggles with this, don't worry. I think almost everyone in the world goes through this at some point or another. So just come back to the core, come back to the center, and really understand what's important to you. Stick with us. I'm gonna still go into more details about how we could actually become rich, what it takes, and how to stay rich. This is the key. See you soon. Welcome back to the Retire As You Desire show. We're in the second phase of what we're actually describing of what the definition of rich is. Like, what does richness mean for you and your family? I love this conversation because for everyone, it's so incredibly different. And I probably had over 1,000 conversations or more with people over the past decade and a half about what does money actually mean to you? What does it actually mean to be rich? And in this segment, I want to actually describe to you how you can become rich. Like, what does it actually mean? And what are the steps that it takes? Because it's not that difficult as most people think. And I want to really take a step back here. Let's pretend I'm working with you and you're becoming one of the Retire As You Desire clients. And let's say you're in your 30s. It's highly unlikely that you're going to become rich in 1 year or 2 years, unless you're an entrepreneur, right? Unless you have the confidence, the wherewithal, and really the strength to go out and start your business and sell it within a year or two, very unlikely. Now, becoming rich is more about being consistent. Can you take a guess what the number one way people are becoming millionaires here in the United States are? Like, what are people actually doing to become millionaires? The number one thing is the 401k. And I'm sure this is no surprise. You need to be consistent. It's not about picking the hottest stock, the hottest mutual fund. The odds of something like that happening, they're not great. They can happen, nothing's impossible, but it's all about being consistent. What are the things that you're doing to actually become wealthy? Now, here's a simple trick. If you have a financial calculator or if you work with a financial advisor, take the time to run your numbers. Now, this is not, rocket science in any way, shape, or form, but if you put in your age, which is, let's say, 30 years old, and you have an end goal of having $5 million by the time you retire, there are calculators out there that can help you reverse engineer how much money you need to invest every month to get to that $5 million mark. It's really that simple, or your financial advisor could help you with that. So for that scenario, you want to use a 7% rate of return and really look to use low-cost index funds, because that way you're not guessing, you're not trying to outperform the market. The reality of that happening is probably slim as well. You look at these hedge funds and private equity, even they get it wrong, and they're considered to be professional investors. They do not always get it correct, and they don't always beat the market. They want to, that's what they sort of have a promise to their clients about, but the reality is it really doesn't happen. They're guessing as well. They could be the smartest people on the planet. It doesn't mean that they're gonna get it right. So it's better to just be consistent and put the same amount of money, invest that every single month, where you know that's what's gonna help you get to your goal, as long as the markets get that 7% rate of return year over year. Now, this is one thing that people really get screwed up on. And please avoid doing this, because this is a big red flag and it could really detract you from becoming wealthy into the future. And that is listening to poor people, listening to money advice from poor people. Dave Ramsey talks about this all the time. And when you watch some of his videos, it's kind of funny when you have a caller call in and say, I want to pay off my house, but all my friends are telling me not to do this. And Dave goes, why are you listening to poor people, right? You want to work with and speak with people who are ahead of you and ask them what they're doing. Ask them what their net worth is. Where do they put their money? These are ways for you to get ahead from a simplicity purpose. Buying the indexes, keeping it simple, being consistent. This could get you ahead of most people on the planet, especially from a money richness standpoint. And when the markets are bad, this is a gift for you. I want to make this very clear for everyone watching this amazing show. When the stock market is down 10, 20, 30% or more, these are gifts for you. It's like Christmas morning. These are opportunities for you to buy more investments and make a 20, 30% return, hopefully, within a shorter period of time, because you're buying things at a discount. Just like if you want to buy a house, don't you want to get it on sale? The same is true for your investments. Do not listen to the news. Don't worry about what they're saying. Be consistent. And if you see big dips in the market, please buy. That's going to give your money a lot longer longevity and vitality as well. And some people just panic. They get worried. They see a big loss in their account. And another thing, once you get to that $1 million mark, or 2 or 3 or 4, if you're having a 30% loss, those numbers get bigger. So they get even scarier. But you have to keep your mindset in check. Keep that brain of yours in check, because this is good. This is actually healthy for your portfolio, because the markets cannot go up every single day, every single year, every single decade. When things are bad, or when things are difficult, or when the news is super negative, say to yourself, this is the time to buy, because that could help you retire earlier and become rich faster. And that's what we all want. And when you become rich, this allows you to have more experiences. I think richness is in traveling, being with your friends and family, being with the people that you love, opening up that great bottle of wine, or going to that great restaurant. Those things are going to give you better joy rather than the toys that you really buy in life. And this is going to lead to your soul to give you inner richness. It's really about having that deep self of purpose and understanding. That's where your mission becomes so vital, and having personal growth a thing to focus on. This is going to give you more freedom and autonomy. But the thing is, you need to stop spending money up front and being aware as to how much you need to invest into your future, because your future self is going to thank you. Imagine that you have an unlimited vacation fund and you could retire when you're 60. Like, what would that mean for you? Just like mentally thinking, wow, sounds amazing. Or I'm able to create these legacies, or I'm able to donate my time to great organizations that could really use my help. This is what richness is all about. You have this impact. You have this incredible way to give in your life. This is how you become rich, is understanding what does life mean to you. Don't let the world's conditioning really do an effect on you. and understanding where do you want to be when you're 60, when you're 70, when you're 80, and hopefully 90 or 100 with your health, because these things are going to happen over time. And again, the best way that we're seeing in the United States of America is 401ks. They're the biggest reason why people are becoming millionaires in the past 30 years. So there's a reason for this. It's all about being rich, and that's what people want. Another way to do this is through real estate. Everyone says there's not a millionaire that does not own real estate. Now, I don't know the facts behind that, but I think it's pretty consistent and pretty accurate, whether it's their own home, whether they own their own home. But real estate is a great way to build wealth because as inflation rises, the price of rent, the price of these actual homes, they're growing, and they're growing pretty quickly, actually. The housing bubble of 2007 and 2008 was pretty traumatic for a lot of people, but the government really stepped in, printed a lot of money, but that's why we've been seeing inflation. So being rich is still understanding the different cycles that our economies go through, but it's really difficult for people who rely on only Social Security income in retirement to make them rich. You really can't become rich that way financially. There was a shocking article as well that demonstrates what percentage of Americans that rely solely on Social Security. The numbers are astonishing. Only a small percentage of older Americans, roughly 7%, they receive income from Social Security, a defined benefit pension, and a defined contribution plan. So pension, Social Security, and a 401k, 7%. And here's the shocking number. Over 40% of retirees here in America, they only receive income from Social Security in retirement. So scary, it makes me crazy. I don't understand how that's possible, but it goes from 30, 40 years of not saving and not investing, or not having great people around you to give you that encouragement to get rich, to make money in the stock market. And ultimately, it's up to you to be rich. Your actions, your discipline, your mindset, when the economy turns for the worse or the stock market loses value, it's up to you to have the mindset to focus in on these are great opportunities. I want to be rich because I want my time. The money is a way for you to buy back your time. There's nothing wrong with that. And here's the secret. When the assets go down, whether it's the S&P 500, the Dow Jones, the NASDAQ, please do not freak out. Being rich is all about knowing what to do when things are bad. And if you do not have a great mentor or a great group of people around you, reach out to a financial advisor. Reach out to us. We're here to help to really give you guidance during those difficult times. So stay tuned. In the next segment, we're going to talk about what it takes to stay rich. I think this is the hardest part. Stay tuned to the Retire as You Desire show. So if you want to actually become rich and stay rich, doing these little things and having a home for your money every single month is the key. Again, it goes back to being consistent. And if you're consistent, you create this muscle memory. Your mind is going to say, I need to put money away every month. I need to invest money every month. And if you're doing this, things sort of take care of themselves. And when you get into retirement and start using your money, a lot of people focus on the 4% rule. Welcome back to the Retire as You Desire show. This segment is for the folks who want to become rich and actually stay rich and not make big mistakes for their future self, their future retirement, and their lifestyle. This is very critical. Getting rich, let's recap segment 1. You can definitely get rich. It's all going to come down to being consistent, having a plan, and sticking to it no matter what, whether the markets are up, down, or all around. That is the game plan for becoming wealthy here in America, is being consistent and always having a place for your money to go to invest. And let's say granted the markets, they need to perform, right? We really like to look at a 7% on average rate of return. I've heard some of these financial gurus say look at 12% or 11%. I think that's super unreasonable because you need to take into consideration inflation. And 7% is really that sweet spot. And if you look at the rule of 72, here's how it works. You take 72 and you divide that by your rate of return. It's going to give you how many years it could take for your money to double. So for this example, 10 years. So for every 10 years, if your money is going to double, it's a great way for you to start to plan into the future. And let's say if you're already rich, how do you protect it? How do you grow it? If you hit $2 to $3 million, should you put all of your money into the mattress? Should you save it all? Should you just put them in CDs and try and live off of that interest? I'm going to give you a game plan to help you keep as much of your money as possible, but also help grow your money. And that way you don't become scared to lose it all. Because the reality is, if you make some really bad decisions, that could happen. But the first tip is you want to insulate your money from taxation. When you set up your investments in the first place, having Roth IRAs, Roth 401ks, and life insurance, along with real estate, it could be the cornerstone of your investment future if you do not have the ability to become an entrepreneur. Taxation could really be the silent killer for people's retirement dollars. And the Federal Reserve, they've printed trillions and trillions of dollars since 2008. A ton of money. And here's what happens when they print so much money. It really leads to inflation and higher taxation because it's a math problem. This falls back on the taxpayers' dollars. And where do they get taxpayer dollars from? It's called taxation. It's pretty simple. Here's why this is going to be a problem for people into the future, and you're really going to want to address this if you want to stay rich. Let's pretend you're 73 years old and you've accumulated $3 million in a pre-tax IRA or 401k vehicle. Basically, you have not been taxed on this money yet, on this $3 million. And at 73, you're going to be mandated to take a required minimum distribution. You're going to have an approximate $113,000 of an RMD to withdraw, and this full amount is taxable. And this could land you in the 22 or 24% tax bracket. So basically, you're going to be losing 22 to 24% of your money. And the thing is, if the government raises taxes, what if you're going to lose 30%, 40%, or 50% of that distribution to taxes? This is why Roth IRA conversions are so important from now up until 2026, because the tax laws are changing. And let's remember something. If you want to stay rich, remember that the Social Security fund is not sufficient. Medicare and Medicaid, all these governmental programs, guess what? They're underfunded. The government is literally sitting on trillions of untaxed dollars inside of traditional IRAs and traditional 401ks. None of this money's been taxed yet. You actually have an obligation, or really a tax lien from the government, if you look at it this way, on your money. So be wary of this. If you want to stay rich, look to start putting money into tax-free vehicles, whether it's life insurance or Roth IRAs or Roth 401ks. Understand how the industry works. This is going to be so important for you. And really, depending on what stage you're in right now in life, you could also stay wealthy by doing Roth IRA conversions or allocating distributions into life insurance policies. I know a lot of wealthy people have done this. They're taking their taxable dollars, paying taxes now, moving tax-free money into life insurance policies. Now, it's not for everyone. It's not the perfect scenario, but it is a way to help have different flexibility from a taxation standpoint. This is one of the most important ways for keeping your family rich for generations to come. And it's really prevalent to understanding how much money you're going to lose to potential taxation into the future. Now, here are some other ways to stay rich in retirement. Number one is not throwing all that money into the mattress and taking your millions of dollars and not getting a return on your money. That's how you could actually lose a lot of money. The thing is, some of the best investors, here's what they do, especially when they make millions of dollars. They keep the money invested in the stock market. Yes, they keep it there. They don't take it all out. They don't put it in CDs. They don't put it into their mattress. They do not panic when the markets are down. And I really think that's why they become rich in the first place. If you want to stay rich, don't panic when things are bad. Again, these are opportunities. You may want to reallocate your money into something that could make you more money with the help of a financial advisor. But at the end of the day, if you're sticking to your plan, it's going to be amazing. That's what's more important, to stay rich in retirement. Now let's think about another thing here. From a richness standpoint, where are you spending your money? The wealthiest people I know, they're very aware as to where their money is going every single month. They're just not whimming it. They're just not throwing money all over the place. They're really focused on, okay, I know that I have $10,000 coming in. They have a place in a home for all of their money, every single penny. The thing that's really fun about this is that they have a way to project their richness and their wealth. They can estimate things in a much more favorable way instead of guessing. Think if you're spending all of your money every month and you don't know how much you can invest, how are you going to actually become rich and stay rich? It's probably not likely, and it's probably not going to happen. So if you want to actually become rich and stay rich, doing these little things and having a home for your money every single month is the key. Again, it goes back to being consistent. And if you're consistent, you create this muscle memory. Your mind is going to say, I need to put money away every month. I need to invest money every month. And if you're doing this, things sort of take care of themselves. And when you get into retirement and start using your money, a lot of people focus on the 4% rule. Now, in today's world, with interest rates being so high, this is pretty prevalent. You could actually put your money into money markets or CDs and get these rates of return. In today's recording, this will change into the future. The Fed is starting to lower interest rates. But this actually allows you to protect your principal in some ways. There's still risk, but it's less risky than being in the stock market. But the richest people, they keep the money invested. They're not taking their chips off the table, because if they've taken care of their financial future, they're looking into the next generation and they want to make them wealthy and they want to keep their family wealthy. And in the next segment, I'm going to show you how you could actually jump into being wealthy for generations and generations to come. That's where things take some planning. So you're going to really want to stick with us into the next section. But going back to a lot of our past episodes of the TV show, we've talked a lot about the Roth IRA conversions, staying rich, how to become rich. But once you actually hit your number, whether it's $1 million, 2, or 3, what are you going to do? How are you going to celebrate? This needs to be part of your equation. How are you going to have fun? Because if you self-sacrifice for 20 or 30 years and save $2 million, you're going to want to have a carrot at the end of that stick, because what's the point of having all this money if you're not going to enjoy your life? And this is where experiences come into play. Take your friends on vacation. Take your family on vacation. Go to that nice dinner. Scott Galloway, who's a professor, he wanted to get to $100 million net worth. Now, he's an entrepreneur. He hit this number. And in one of his recent interviews, he said he loves spending money. What he's doing is every single year, he spends money on lavish vacations, great restaurants, doing the things that we're just speaking about. But he takes the amount of money that he spent and he doubles that and he gives it away to charity and different causes every single year. Now, he's talking about this on big shows. I don't know if it's true. I'm not friends with him, But the one thing I will say, having that mindset to give money away, I think could keep you even richer because it keeps you focused on what you need to do to get ahead. That's a brilliant mindset and a brilliant trick for you to stay invested in the markets. Now, being rich is going to mean something different for everyone. For Tom, our friends here at the studio, myself, and our family. If you're married, here's the final tip to try and stay rich throughout your lifetime, is have a monthly meeting with your significant other about money. Do your net worth statement every single month. If you need help putting this together, call us, we could help. But you want to know where you're at and if you're hitting your goals. So if you want to be rich, get your spouse involved and put your plans together as a family. And speaking of family, in the next segment, we're going to talk about how we can keep the next generations rich too. This is the key. You can set up loan provisions inside of your trust as well. So for instance, if a grandchild goes to college, they can borrow money from the trust and then pay that back. It's like the trust is your family bank. Welcome back to the Retire As You Desire show. Today's episode is all about getting rich. What does it actually take? How do you stay rich? Which is a pretty intensive process, but it's doable. It's totally doable. But here's the most fun part. If you have a family, if you're blessed to have different generations, how do you make them wealthy? How do you make them rich? And what do the wealthy people do in our country to make that happen? I'm going to go through an idea with you that could really help you, your family, but also the next generations have wealth, and hopefully for many, many, many generations to come. So let's dig into the details. So if you are someone who is already rich, congratulations. I'm super happy for you. I know it took a lot of work, dedication, and hard work. Let's just be honest, it takes a lot of work. But let's say you have millions of dollars invested and you don't need that money to live off of. Here's what you can do. You can set up a trust, and this is very important. That could process your assets at the time of your death, which is, hopefully many, many years to come into the future. But your wealth will need to be analyzed from a tax efficiency standpoint in order to send money to future generations, especially on a tax-free level. Real estate and stocks currently have what is called a step-up in basis. This is great. This is why many millionaires and wealthy people own stocks and real estate. They have a much more favorable way to pass down assets to different generations. And this means that the growth on your investments is not going to be taxed, which is super important. And if your heirs, if they sell these assets after you have your step up in basis, they're not going to be taxed on the full gains, just on whatever growth is from the time of your death until they sell those assets. The best thing would be for them not to have to sell the assets, and we'll get into how we can make that happen in a few moments here. But this step up in basis is very true, and for an example standpoint, let's say if you buy a stock for $10 back in 1975, and now that same share of stock is now worth $200. Here's the fun part. If you use the step up in basis, there's going to be no taxation on that growth from $10 to $200. This is why wealthy people and rich people keep their stocks and they don't sell them when they need money. A lot of people will actually take a loan out against these stocks or their real estate because loans are not taxable. You don't have to sell your assets. That's a rookie mistake. You want to really look at keeping your assets. And again, loans are not taxable. The sales on gains are. So here's a great way to keep your family rich for generations to come. As I mentioned before, you want to set up your trust. This is going to allow you to fund that trust with life insurance. And yes, you're probably thinking life insurance, boring. But here's the thing. When the trust owns a life insurance policy on your life, you're going to want that trust to have the ability to not only own that, but also be the beneficiary at the time of death. And your children and your grandchildren are going to benefit from this. And let's get into why. The reason for this is that when you pass away, the rich person with millions of dollars, your life insurance policy could pay a tax-free death benefit to that trust. So for instance, let's say if you spent $100,000 in total on getting your life insurance policy and you pass away, but the life insurance policy was for $1 million, you basically got a 10-to-1 odds on your money, and all that money goes tax-free into the trust. So you spent $100 to get $1 million. It's a great way to do things. And this is how rich families plan for multi-generational wealth. The trust is now funded with your life insurance death benefit proceeds. And you can now use those trust proceeds to pay for the life insurance premiums of the next generation. It's like a waterfall. Money keeps flowing from one generation to the next generation to the next generation. The reason to use life insurance is because the money flows tax-free. It's the most tax-efficient way for you to send assets down to the next generation. It's just simple life insurance. This is the key. You can set up loan provisions inside of your trust as well. So for instance, if a grandchild goes to college, they can borrow money from the trust and then pay that back. It's like the trust is your family bank, and the life insurance policies are the funding mechanisms. This is how you can stay rich, and actually your family could benefit for this for years to come. And when you look at your kids, your grandchildren, or hopefully great-grandchildren, don't you want them to not have to worry about money? I know a lot of people who suffer and have struggled with money, entrepreneurs, high earners even. They don't know what to do with their money every single month. But this is a really simple way to pass down assets to next generations in a tax-efficient manner. You could use this to buy real estate. You could use this to buy homes for family members. You could use this trust as the funding mechanism, and it can actually become the family bank. And you could also choose to do life insurance policies that have cash value accumulation. This is the key, because when the money grows inside the policies, you could also take loans out against the policies on a tax-free basis. So just like taking out a loan against your stock, a loan out against a property, a loan out against the life insurance, these are tax-free ways to receive income because loans are not taxable. Now I want to make this very clear. Check with your financial advisor, your tax accountant, your lawyer before you do these things, but this is how people become multi-generational, wealthy, and rich in the United States of America and in a ton of other countries. And if you want to keep your assets inside of your families, the life insurance premiums could pay the real estate taxes, they could pay the health insurance, they could pay for college funds. You just need to purchase enough life insurance with the death benefit to foresee your future needs. The most famous family who has been very prevalent in acknowledging this sort of behavior are the Rockefellers. So John D. Rockefeller, he was the wealthiest man on the planet back in the early 20th century. But the thing is, the way that his family stayed rich is through this process. It's like the life insurance waterfall process, where the trust is getting funded by life insurance. You have to fund a trust. The trust is great, but assets actually need to go into the trust to help that trust be facilitated. This is a way for you to have a better stronghold on your money into your future as well. So if you're sitting back on a couple $1,000,000, if your money hasn't been taxed yet, some of the moving parts are all about future taxation. That's what we want to avoid. That's why rich families use life insurance, because it's tax-free. And typically you get pennies on the dollar of a death benefit. So you're getting a lot more for your money if your financial advisor sets things up properly for you and they're not worried about making a huge commission on the money. So overall, let's recap this episode because this has been one of my favorites to do. Here's how you get rich. You need to do things consistently. Put money away in investments, not the bank account. Don't put it in lazy money. Invest the money and plan for a 7% rate of return after inflation every single year. Again, every year it's not going to happen, but the years when things are down, that's when you want to invest more. When you become rich and you have millions of dollars, here's what you need to do. You really want to understand how much money you want to live off of your millions of dollars. See if you can incorporate your Social Security, any pensions, and the 4% rule. Take 4% of an income. That way, you're not draining your portfolio if you're able to make 7%. And another thing, do not just put the money in your mattress. Don't put it all into cash. Keep your money invested. That's the big key. Another thing is very, very important. Here's how you can make your family rich for generations to come. What you want to do is have life insurance policies on every single generation. When every grandchild is born, take out a life insurance policy. Especially if you have millions of dollars invested, if you don't need it, use it in a more efficient way. You start building generational wealth, and you need to teach your children, like we do, how to do this for the next generations. They need to become the steward of your family moving forward. Overall, if you need help figuring out how to plan to get rich, how to stay rich, and how to make multi-generational wealth for your family, please reach out to us, bill@bloomfinancial.us. Call the number on your screen. We have a team to help you plan out your financial future. We love helping you retire as you desire, and there's a lot of different ways to do this, but this is the most effective way from what I've seen in our industry. And again, check with your advisor, check with your people, but this strategy has helped so many families do the things that they want to and enjoy their life, and they have a huge sense of freedom. So stay tuned every Friday night, 6 p.m. for new great episodes just like this of the Retire As You Desire show.